Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Black Talk Platform. This week we is our second week of returning after almost an 18-month pause. And if last week sounded political, tonight makes that unmistakably clear. Because right now, politics isn't something happening around Black life, it's happening to it. Through our wages, through our schools, through our churches, through our silence, and through our votes. Tonight, my co host and I want to talk about Texas. Not because Texas belongs to us, but because Texas keeps telling us who this country is becoming. We have two Black leaders who are making bold moves in the state of Texas, one with whom most of you are familiar, and that is none other than Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's now aiming for the U.S. Senate. And there's also the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes Jr., who is stepping into a congressional race of his own. Two very different styles, two very different lanes, but the same unspoken question hovering over both campaigns. What kind of Black leadership in America is America willing to tolerate? And what kind of Black voters are willing to defend? Jasmine Crockett, if you know her, she is not quiet. She does not soften her edge for comfort. She does not whisper truth to power. She confronts it. And for some, that's refreshing. For others, it's unsettling. And that tension reveals something very important. In a political climate that demands Black restraint, audacity itself becomes controversial. Meanwhile, we have Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes Jr., and I'm going to say this, as he would say parenthetically, my pastor brought him to my home church, Walk Memorial Baptist Church in the Bronx, New York, many times over my lifetime at the church. And he was electrifying. He was prophetic. He was a leader naturally, and had young budding theologians when we didn't even know that we were budding theologians listening and pulling up in the pews to make sure we heard every word and that we were able to have time to process what he was saying. He's a wordsmith. But not only is he a wordsmith, he is a well-respected minister of the gospel. He comes from a different lineage than Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. He comes from the pulpit, the protest, the moral imagination of faith traditions. His leadership isn't loud in the same way, but it is deeply rooted in the quest for justice. The question there is in passion is translation, how we see and whether or not moral authority moves legislation. Can prophetic voice survive procedural politics? And here's the truth we don't always say out loud. Neither of these races is just about who wins. They're about whether Black voters are still allowed to choose leadership that reflects our complexity, our anger and our grace, our strategy and our spirit. Texas has never made it easy for Democrats. And I lead with Democrats because Texas has actually never made it easy for Black people. And because the Black vote is essential to Democrats winning, it's important to realize that it has not been a place that's friendly to either Democrats or Black people. It has never made it easy for women. It has never made it easy for Black leaders who refuse to behave. So tonight, we're not asking who is electable in the abstract. We're asking who we are willing to stand with when the pressure comes. Who are we willing to protect when the narrative turns? Because we know the nature of politics, the narrative will turn a couple of times, if not more. And whether we are still bold enough to choose representation that doesn't ask permission to exist. This is Black Talk Platform. And tonight, Pastor Davis and I, we're talking power. Who holds it? Who fears it? and what happens when Black leadership refuses to shrink. Mentioning his name means that it is time that I introduce and bring on set Pastor Anthony Davis, one who I've co-ministered with in our community for several years, and I've seen his prophetic ministry grow. One who is a husband, not only a pastor, a husband, a father, a brother, a son, an uncle, a friend, a prophetic voice of the Most High God. Welcome back, Pastor Anthony Davis.
All right, Pastor Deb, I'm so glad to be back with you on Black Talk and Forum, and I'm just delighted. I think this is a healthy conversation, a good conversation. This is the time for it. I can't believe it's been 18 months, you said?
I think I'm misnumbering. I don't know if it's been that long because I saw a show from December of last year. I'm not sure if we actually did it, but it was definitely scheduled.
So. 18 months. Well, nonetheless, it's a delight to be here. I think this is an important conversation. I'm looking forward to this. This is good stuff.
Awesome. Oh, and our sister friend, Reverend Barbara Ellery is with us as she was last week to welcome me back. So we are happy to see you in the house again, Rev. Now, before Pastor Davis and I really get into the meat and potatoes of what I just teed up about Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes, I started something last week that I want to do every week because this is Black Talk platform. There are a lot of Black people who are doing the darn thing wherever they may be. Last week, I introduced you guys, some of you, and presented to others, Captain Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. And I just cautioned anybody who calls themselves Pan-African to understand what Pan-Africanism means. It does not mean that because people just look like you, we should embrace. We want to embrace those who are coming out of the struggle and showing us the blueprint of how to do it and replicate it where we are. And so that's why he is the person for me to look at what he's doing over there. And so I thought he deserved a shout out. But this week, two people shared a shout out, because they're doing incredible work in both the city and state of New York around reparations. Last week, my sister, who's not here today, at least, I don't see her yet, asked me to give an update on the New York State reparations movement. And it's actually a whole commission. I am not operating tonight as a commissioner of the New York State Community Commission on Reparations and Remedies. I am operating as Dr. Deborah Jenkins. In that capacity, I can speak very freely. And so I have these two people. One is the founding CEO and executive director of the New York City Commission on Racial Equity. And that is none other than Sister Linda Tagani. To have gotten that role, and I'm pretty sure there was some steep competition for that role, but when I met her about 5 years ago, impassioned leader in our community who understands the Black struggle, the Black American struggle, and also understands that every person from the diaspora stands in New York on our shoulders and in this country. And she embraces the struggle of our ancestors and those of us who remain. And I love that about her. She's doing some super cool work on the New York City Reparations Commission or Task Force. And I'm not sure if they're not a little further ahead of the New York State Commission, but we're doing a lot of work. You just don't get to see it as often. So shout out to Sister Linda Tagani. Please look her up. If you don't know her, get to know her and the work that she and the are doing. Second is someone who I've actually known a little while also. I was so pleased when I was able to watch this young man, and they're both young, in my opinion, this young man give a real professional testimony at the December 9th public hearing of the New York State Community Commission on Reparations and Remedies in Utica, New York. Who knew that we had such a strong historic footprint in the city of Utica, New York, but that goes on. And it was well attended from what I could see. I was unable to make it myself, but when I saw his testimony and the wonderful, wonderful recommendations, because what we've been trying to get is not only personal story from the community, but we want some what we believe to be tangible recommendations to the commission. Oh, I implore everybody, please go and listen. And before the end, I'm going to try to put the link up to our website so that you can all go and hear what I heard. Anyway, he gave some really, really practical, doable recommendations that I believe that the commission should incorporate into our work. We will be grandfathered very soon, and so we have a lot of work to complete before this commission is grandfathered. And so that person, I know you guys are waiting, you're like talking on, but this is a young man who I've come to know, and I definitely respect the work that he does. He is none other than Brother Divine Prince. That's right. He's a divine prince, right? He is very articulate. He is the president of the United Freedmen's Project. If you don't know your Black history as it relates to Reconstruction time, again, I implore you to do your education. We get your education. We cannot afford to devolve into little factions that lack information. And so that testimony that he gave the other night, not at my invitation, but at the invitation of the chair of the commission, I knew nothing about it. I love that for us all, because no one can say that even though they know, and I'm very proud of being a lineage-based reparationist, they cannot say I tampered and put him in there. I had no knowledge, no knowledge, but I am extremely proud of the work he did there. All of the commissioners need to weigh in, and if they don't, the majority still rules. And I am pushing for several of his recommendations with the executive commission that we can then take back to the full commission. That's just me doing the two hats thing, but I'm really just Dr. Deborah Jenkins tonight, and I wanted to shout out Divine Prince and Linda Tagani for their great work in New York State. And I believe that gave me hope for what we can all accomplish on these commissions and task force for our people. And let's get it done. So having said that, shout outs, kudos to them. Pastor Davis, are you ready to get into talking about Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes Jr.? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm ready.
Well, wonderful. Let me, I had a big monologue there on, before we started, talking about each of them and how I sort of perceived them. I gave you personal knowledge about my experience up close and personal with Reverend Haynes. But what are your thoughts about these campaigns? I think it's revolutionizing, but what do you think? What do you think, Pastor?
Well, as you said, Jasmine Crockett is known. She doesn't hold her tongue. I think Trump obviously is not a big fan of hers, but she is popular. She has a strong online presence. I think the way she goes about, the way she talks is, is like you said, it's prophetic. It's truth to power, and it's unapologetic. And I think as a result of that, she has gained a lot of notoriety. And like I said, to me, she has a strong online following. When she speaks with passion. She speaks directly. She speaks forthright. I do think she feels she has a chance. I think she feels that she does have a strategy. She feels that she can even sway people who may have voted for Trump to actually vote for her. Texas has not had a Democrat, I don't know, for 30 years. Yeah. I think it's been something to that effect, 30 years. Mm-hmm. She feels that she could build a coalition to be able to win that seat. And as you begin to delve into into the probability of it. You start to see, what is she trying to do? I know she spoke recently and said something to the effect that Texas is 61% people of color.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we don't ever think about just how diverse Texas is, and how there is a coalition of people that can be attracted to her, or she can persuade, or she can communicate to. And so I think that, it's the time, because the people are disenchanted with Trump. I think he's not helping himself, clearly.
Right.
And, I think that this midterm election it's going to be very interesting, the climate, his approval rating. So I think she sees an opportunity, and she's jumping on it. And I think she believes in what she's doing. And it sounds good. It sounds, plausible. She's making me believe that she can actually get this done. I mean, I think it's, if you told me, what I think she announced early December, or maybe, I don't know when it was, December 2nd, up in, if somebody said beforehand, and would she have a chance, I would say, I don't know about that. But looking at it, I think she does. I think she does have something behind her. But, wow, 30 years, that's a long time. She's got a lot to do. And with the coalition, she has to get the support of, the community at large, not just Texas, but when we have the national dialogue, she needs the media to be able to be an ally. And some people have questions in terms of her where she leans politically. Is she radical enough? Is she to the left enough? Does she need to be pushed enough? She seems to be sort of mainstream. Is she in the Black radical tradition? Those are questions that people ask. Well, we'll get those questions answered as she progresses.
I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned the radical tradition, and I think she's not. Right? She's not, if we're going to be honest. But I've been very critical, not very critical of her, but I am often very critical of the Congressional Black Caucus as a whole. I mean, case in point, the president went to Pennsylvania on the 9th, on Tuesday, and he made what I consider a racist comment that came out of his disdain for the Somalis. And then he separated them out. Honestly, I get it. Talking about Congresswoman, her counterpart, her colleague, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota, right? He makes a comment that Black people love me and they know scammers better than anyone else.
Right.
Are you crazy? Are you crazy? And I wake up the next morning, I go to Twitter or X to find out. I know the Congressional Black Caucus has made a statement of rebuke, and I'm still waiting. And now it's the 12th. So I've been very critical of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah.
But what I've seen with Congresswoman Crockett is a pull away.
Yeah.
And I like that, because she may have to go fighting. I don't think she has to go fighting. I don't think she has to be one who is overly convinced that she has to become more of an advocate for Black people. I don't think that, but it remains to be seen. She's going to have a hurdle, but I understand she's polling at 8% ahead, 8 points ahead of her closest opponent, and he's very well known in the state of Texas. Let me see if I can pull up his name really quick.
You mean James Tellerico?
Yes, Laura. Yeah. Yes. And the thing with him is that he has the youth vote. He has the voice of the youth. And so is she able to pull away from that mainstream Democratic talking head that she's been? And I loved her first speech about her campaign, wherein she said, I'm no longer going to be a go along to get along. So she's already fixing some of the issues with herself you know, and that's a very strategic and smart move. And I think we would be remiss if we did not pay close attention to what she says and what she does. And you mentioned coalition building. What is that looking like for her? Aside from needing to make some inroads for the young people, as I was just mentioning, what else is she going to have to do, or have you seen her attempting to do?
Well, I think her strategy is really she's got to make it clear what the issues are, and I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of issues, and I think she's looking to talk in terms of I guess the healthcare and one of her talking points, and of course the economy and things of that nature. I think she has to connect with the people with the issues, right? With what are the issues?
Yeah.
And she has to define where she is on the issues where and she does have somewhat of an uphill climb because I think the person who she would be running against has popularity.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Obama spoke favorably of him as well at some point. That has helped him. He's more the mainstream, and I think she even said in regards to dealing with him, she really hadn't done much research regarding him to prepare for, competing against him. So she has to make it clear, where are you? What is your strategy? What is the coalition building look like? What are the issues you're going to tackle? Where are you with some of these things? And then just on a side note, we before the show started, we talked about Mark Lamont Hills talking about her and the need to perhaps push her, support her, of course, and push her to a progressive agenda. And one of the points he had pointed out was her position when it came to Palestine. And so that's another thing. It's like, how mainstream are you? We talked about her not being in the Black radical tradition. How much does that hurt her? Where can she be pushed? Where can we make her lean to? To what extent we, the people, more importantly, those in Texas, are willing to concede certain things about her. So there's a lot of questions that she has to answer. And, and she seems willing to do that, but I think she even would admit that she's got to get that part of her game rolling.
She does. And I'm really glad you mentioned what Mark Lamont Hill said about her stance on Palestine. I need somebody, and I'm not in Texas, but I need someone who is willing to always stand for the little person, the downtrodden, those who are on the front lines of inequity, because no one knows it better than we as Black Americans, right? We know what it means to be spat on. We know what it means to be lynched. We know all the horrors of oppression. And while she can boast that she's not taking AIPAC money, she is very pro-Israel. Now, that may itself be a strategic move, so she can ward off the onslaught of attacks that are sure to come from the Republicans, from the GOP, because everybody is in lockstep. There's no political courage from any of them, right. It seems, other than those who are like leaving Congress left and right. And I have not seen one of the Black politicians leave on principle. None of them have left on principle. You have those who are getting sick and having not early, but slight onset of dementia, and they won't release power to people who can really deal in this moment that we are in. They are those who are staying around because of the power that they have amassed over decades and many years. So I am concerned that she really feels as she does. The problem is not about, and I think we've talked about this. So we have definitely been on since the October 7th, 2023. We've been on. The problem is not being able to have a voice that speaks to the harm on both sides. And so now with all of the hostages having been released and those who, were murdered by Hamas, you want to still consider their long journey to recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Palestinians are out there. We were just told last week that they were enduring weather conditions that was threatening the tents that they had. Why can't there be two voices? And that is, if she's not able to do that early on, it's going to be an uphill battle for her, not just in the primary, but when it's time for the general election. What would you say to that?
That's a good, the stuff that you raised there, as does Mark Lamont Hill and others raise, those are good points. It's how do you navigate that? Because again, this is still Texas, right? This is Texas, and there's got to be it's conservative. So and we can talk about ideologically, we could talk about being on the right side of history, we could talk about matters of justice, but she's also trying to get elected. It's a lot to consider there, and I don't envy her position, because that's the nature of politics.
Yeah.
But she's going to have to make she's going to have to clarify some things, or maybe have to be bold about some things, and trust. She's not going to get the staunch conservative Texan that's you know who I'm talking about, that group who's not going to vote for her.
Yeah.
She's going to have to convince those who are really I wouldn't say fringe, but those who are in the middle, those who are independent voters, or those who ideologically are in the middle. She's going to have to appeal to that, and that may require her to demonstrate some boldness in taking a stance. She does do a good job of raising money. I believe she's fundraising is exceptional. She does have money, so she does have a base. She has all the pieces to make this happen. But this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yes. I figured she was going to run when she didn't seem like really rattled about the redistricting in Texas, which will give us a great segue into Reverend Haynes in a minute.
Yeah.
She didn't. I figured she was going to do this. Now, she and Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's no friendship between them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching Marjorie Taylor Greene and wondering, what is she going to do with that voice, that large platform? Wouldn't it be interesting if they were somehow able to also strategically come together for her benefit? Because I'm with Zerlina Maxwell, who wrote the book, I think it's called the End of White Politics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
White political class, something to that effect. And I'm with her when she says that every time a Democrat seems to have a possibility of winning a national office like Congress or Senate, the first thing that's said of them, or even president, is how will they get the voters, the white voters? How will they get the right voters? And she actually made a really, really good point in saying that, are all voters equal? Meaning, some of the MAGA votes you don't necessarily want, because they really don't care about Black people. They don't care about anybody if they're not white. So are those the votes that we want to encourage her to go after? And I don't know. I don't believe it is.
She was talking about that in a recent interview. They were asking that same exact question, and she said what I said a moment ago, that she's not going to get that vote anyway. It doesn't matter what she does. And again, that's when she talked about the diversity of Texas and the 61% people of color, and being able to attract that Latino vote, which can also be quite conservative, surprisingly.
Absolutely, no.
And sometimes you wouldn't think that, but they are. Particularly when it comes to the religious aspect, they're religiously conservative, and it may not. That's why sometimes the Palestinian thing becomes tough, because there are people who believe certain things theologically, spiritually. They believe certain things, and it makes it hard to take a stance for the downtrodden, because
Yeah.
people don't see it as such, right?
Right.
So that's a tough thing. And so, it's who is our coalition? Who can she go after? What do the numbers look like? What is the strategy? And that's what has to happen. But her opponent, she has to really understand her opponent too, because again, he's got popularity himself. He's got something there, and he's a likable guy.
Reverend Barbara just shared with us that he was recently in Chicago at Reverend Otis Moss's church a few months ago. So I literally, until you actually pronounced his name properly for me, and Reverend Barbara shared this with us, I haven't done my research on him. And so she should not come out in another interview not having done her homework on him.
Yeah.
I mean, she actually came out of the state senate in Texas. And so that's not a good look, but she can get over that hump.
Yeah.
I hope she doesn't become arrogant, thinking that, oh, wow, the polls are showing I'm 8 points ahead. Well, you just announced, right? And it's a long, long time to the midterms for the primary. She may, I hope she doesn't make the fatal mistake of thinking that she has the primary in the bag and thinking to the GOP opponent. That would be a mistake, I believe.
No, I didn't get that sense in looking at what she's been saying. I think she really understands the moment and a lot of what you're saying. I just think she's got to put that work in, and the time to do it is now. Like that's, and she understands that, Black folks have become increasingly more politically astute. This is 2025, about to be 2026. We know the deal. We've gone through having a Black president. We've gone through the things that you talked about regarding the Congressional Black Caucus. We've seen symbolism, seen a lot of, the political games played, and a lot of us really are not into that. We want something a little bit more substantial, and something more, as we say, prophetic, speaking that truth and changing things, right? Because this Trump administration has been deadly.
Yes.
And we have to change it. I mean, people are having trouble, surviving, buying food, paying bills, living. It's bad. And so this is real. Nothing can be ceremonial, and we need to know where you are, and we can't play a political game. So it will take courage. When to hear her say that she's not going to get that certain votes anyway, that's refreshing,
encouraging,
right? So that means you got to build your coalition, and then that means you got to speak to the issues, but you got to define those issues. And I do think she understands that. I'm encouraged by her. I don't think she's not unintelligent. Wow. She's an intelligent person. Yeah.
Well, look at what Reverend Barbara just said. Until she announced, he was my choice. He is a Matthew 25 sheep goat preacher, theological student. Aha! So the narrative is building on him. And I love that. But that goes back to what you said earlier, Pastor Davis, about him, Talarico. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That's about right.
That goes back to, that's the Bible Belt, if ever there was. Texas, just like most of the southern states, but they believe in their Bible, and they are in search of a prophetic voice. So when I think about him, so I'll do my homework on him, Reverend Barbara. Thank you and Pastor Davis for giving me more information about him. I think it may come down to if she is able to build a strong coalition, as you were saying, Pastor Davis, especially inclusive of the Latino population, because they are typically very conservative, as you said. But traditionally, we have been too. We've just gotten away from it.
That's a good point. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because we got pushed into being what's called progressive Democrats against our own thought process. We forgot and we just found ourselves there. And that's why the Democratic Party, the National Party, is in shambles, if you ask me. But it is refreshing to see.
Man, that's a conversation we need to explore in another show. by itself.
I agree. I do agree. I do agree. I do think it's refreshing that she is making this run, and we're gonna see. We're gonna see how it goes for her. Now, thinking about Matthew 25, thank you so much for that segue, the second segue to get to Reverend Freddie Haynes Jr. I am not absolutely sure why he declared his candidacy, but I am excited about it because he has long since been a voice in Texas as a leader of the church, transcending the Black church, but definitely he knows where his home is. She may have some trouble gathering the older Black vote because they are also conservative as opposed to the younger ones. But that is something that she might want to strategically connect her race or her campaign with Reverend Haynes. But he's strongly connected to the Black vote. He's always done a lot of outreach in the community and beyond where Friendship West is. He is well known. He is well respected nationally as well as Texas. He could literally have people coming from all over the country to help get out the vote for him specifically. I am wondering whether or not there's going to be this huge emphasis on him being a man of the cloth, as if we've never had a Floyd Flake. And you and I both know Bishop Flake, I believe he is now retired, but he transformed Jamaica, New York. Am I right or wrong?
He did. Yeah, he did.
He went from Queens, New York. For those of you who don't know, former Congressman Floyd Flake, who is the pastor emeritus of what's the name of the church?
You know, it totally escapes me, but I've gone there so many times. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest ones.
It's an AME church.
It is an AME church.
Allen AME or something to that effect.
It is. It's Greater Allen AME.
Greater Allen AME, yeah.
He transformed Jamaica. He did not get to Washington and forget about his constituents, the people who actually sent him there. That community went from wasn't to is, and it still remains today. So to have the thought of a pastor, Dr. Reverend Freddie Haynes going to Congress is a big win, in my opinion, for the community that he serves and that constituency in Texas, because like it or not, we are still suffering in states other than New York, and I think it would be refreshing to have him go. Would he only be prophetic? I won't compare him to Senator Warnock, because in my opinion, he's been and we can have this conversation another time about, the Congressional Black Caucus members, but he's been more of the progressive side. Will Reverend Haynes be able to go there and still stand on principles, stand on biblical principles, still be prophetic while being a politician? That's always got to be the question to me. What do you say?
I say, yeah. He is one of my favorite preachers in America.
Yes.
And I say that very unimpressed with most preachers, and there's very few preachers, especially today as I get older and looking for the prophetic tradition that we're talking about. It's not just it's speaking truth to power, but dealing with the issues and dealing with morality, right? The justice, right? True justice in the deepest philosophical sense. And I think he has been that type of preacher behind the pulpit. And it's not just that he preaches, it's his activism. It's his involvement, his pursuit for racial justice also.
Yes.
It's his courage. He is a guy that gets it done. I think his church is like 13,000 members.
Yeah.
But he's not just a guy with a big church. He actually is engaged and committed and active. And there's receipts. There's things that you can point to that he's done successfully and well, being that voice that we're talking about. I think he has the bona fides. He has the resume. He has the service. I'm worried about his health because I think he did announce that he has some health issues. I believe he's battling, I want to say prostate cancer. And I think he had mentioned that recently in a message. He seems to be doing well, and hopefully he's doing well. But he's running, so I pray that he's doing well. But to me, he has everything that you're looking for. Now, can he still be prophetic? I think that's what he's looking to do. I don't think he's looking to water down who he is. I don't think he's looking to water down his message. I think it is his message prophetically is the impetus for why he's doing what he's doing. I think he feels like as if this is his obligation, and the logical extension of his ministry is to do this.
I agree.
And I welcome it because he seems to be a man of integrity. There's nothing about him that anybody could point to say this is untoward, as they would say. He seems to be the kind of guy that you want. So I'm a fan. So when I saw it, I was ecstatic. I said, I've watched all these sermons and paid it close attention. No, man, because in recent years, especially having dealt with my own health issues and being a little bit more home, as opposed to going to church physically and like that, he was to a large extent the pastor I was looking to.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, I'm familiar with the nature of his message. To me, he's theologically sound, biblically sound, and he's not. He doesn't mess with the word. He goes about it. I look at how you treat the word of God, right? A lot of preachers, and it's not agenda driven. It's not money driven. It's justice driven.
It's justice driven. Yeah. And I think that's the tradition that you and I both have come out of. That is how we set our ministries up. And that's what's led me to Reparations. It's about making right injustice, right? And I think about him, and I was also thinking about Dr. Cornel West, who we've both admired over the years as well. And, I think there's a tendency, and I'm not talking about Reverend Haynes at this moment, I'm talking about Dr. West. There's a tendency for people like for those of us who have admired and liked a Dr. West over the years, to drop them, sort of like how people dropped Michael Jackson with all the allegations, and none were able to really stick. But at that time, for him and his family, largely people turned their back, the Black community turned their backs on him, right? And I feel the same to some degree with Dr. West, who is still, in my opinion, a very prophetic voice, which is why I believe he ran for president, knowing that he would not win, right? I think that was why. But I see so much hope in the candidacy of Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes, because, as you said, I don't think he's doing it for money. I believe he has the money that makes him comfortable, and without fleecing the flock of God, right? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, not having been a member of his church. But I do believe he is running for morality and to recenter the community, even if that community is only the Black community, get us back to where we need to be. Because we have traveled far from home, in my opinion. And I believe that the time is now for a prophetic voice such as his. And I'm looking forward to it. What is Barbara saying? Barbara, thank you so much for schooling us tonight. Let me put this up here. She says, Reverend Haynes is Crockett's well, look, she better get some of that pastor in her and be ready to stand. She sent us. Okay, thank you. I will definitely. She said she sent us a on Messenger. Brother Tellerico's sermon, an interview with Pastor Moss. Oh, I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rev.
I didn't know that was her pastor. I did not at all.
Mm-mm. I didn't either. And I bet there have been a whole lot of private conversations. Girl, what you gonna do? I just believe there may have been some. And I love it because I did not know that when I said she needs to go and try to link up with him. I'm encouraged. And just for those of you who are coming in these last 16 minutes that we have here, we've been talking about Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, her announcement that she is running for United States Senate. That is a wonderful thing, opportunity, and possibility. And we've been talking most recently about the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes Jr., who is making his congressional run. Listen, with the redistricting, with the failed political adventures of many in elected office, whether they're Democratic or Republican, there needs to be a change. And there will be those he will never get votes from because people don't like the church. Too many people have made the name of the church connected to the Most High God ugly, even in his state. So he's going to have some pushback for that. But I wish him well. And it is a race that I want to closely watch, Pastor Davis, and we can go back to as they really sort of rev up the campaigns. It's not going to be easy. And I'm glad you put that note out there about his health. I do pray that he is up to it, because it's a beast. This electioneering is.
So what happens to Texas if they win? Like, what does that mean?
For him, I think it's real clear. He wants to rebuild the community, right? He wants a sense of the beloved community that Dr. King talked about. And how that looks has to be, let's ensure that the least of these receive access to what has been laid up for the wealthy. And that's where we are in this nation. So a congressperson can make a vote in the House, but their real superpower is bringing back funding to the constituents who sent them to DC. The Senate is a little different. It's a little different in that they are the real bosses. They are the upper chamber, right? They run everything. And so I am encouraged for her to be in such a position. She's a bright woman. She's an attorney by trade.
Yeah.
She's done the political dance that some do, but she's don't believe she's low IQ.
No, she's not at all.
Coming from one who daily shows us that his may not be so great.
One point that she makes is the Supreme Court and the need for some type of
expansion.
That and ethical oversight, I think, was one of her points, and the role of the Senate to do that, because that Supreme Court, man, that's a beast also that needs to be dealt with. Yeah. So one of our talking points was that the need to have something, something that controls that. And so that's I think that's her thinking. That's why when we talk about her ideology, I do think she understands the plight of Black America, and she could be made to understand. I think she's willing to understand, and she understands how Trump and Republicans have used this stuff against us, and the way that, because the presidency, what he's done to the Supreme Court is really leveraged them to be against us for a long time.
Yes.
And to be able to think in terms of some type of ethical oversight for that is important. So it's an important conversation. So the fact that she's thinking about that also is encouraging. It really is. Yeah.
It is. It really is. And for the life of me, I still don't know why President Biden chose not to push for the expansion of the Supreme Court, because maybe it wouldn't be as dire as it is now. Because, one could have imagined that the legislators were going to do what they're doing, and that is abdicate their responsibility.
Yeah.
Even though there's supposed to be 3 equal branches of government, the legislative branch actually has more power, but you would not know it with this current GOP-led Congress. Mm-hmm. And that's why I sort of sound the alarm last week. And as we were talking about when we were in the green room before we started tonight's program, I don't think we can afford in this moment, at this time, to fall back into our over critiques of those within the Democratic Party, because like it or not, we are still, as a Black people, still primarily voting Democratic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how anybody could really do a whole lot of voting who are Black people for GOP the way they are behaving.
Mhm.
I mean, this is the worst Speaker of the House ever, in my opinion. Mike
Mhm.
Johnson, the worst.
Mhm.
And I believe he's like that because he had to kiss the ring in order to stay, because they were about to give him the boot. And
Mhm.
so when you have a leader like that, or someone who is in leadership like a Mike Johnson, the nation is in trouble.
Mhm.
And I think that we cannot afford to still dislike. I've had issues, and I've just expressed what those issues with Congresswoman Crockett has been, but I've seen her growth.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't even be talking about it tonight if I hadn't seen her growth and want to root for her.
Mhm.
I am going to do my due diligence and go and look at Brother Tallarico. I really want to, and really see what it's going to look like for her over these months with him. And will, if she pulls so far ahead of him that he eventually ends up conceding or dropping out of the race, will they be able to have a coalition where his people, those supporters of his, would also support her? What she has to do in order to move that needle in her direction. So there's a lot that has to be done, and I'm looking forward to both these campaigns and what they may mean.
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, I always say, if a politician isn't centering Black people in their message, we shouldn't support them. And I don't care if they look like us. If they're only ever talking about others, and we may be a footnote, that's crazy to me. That's just crazy. You don't see
Yeah.
anybody else doing that, Pastor Davis.
I tell you one thing, for the two people that we're talking about tonight, because I was really sour on politics for I don't know, for a while here. I
Same.
have I even stopped engaging and was almost disengaged, but these announcements have me re-engaged, because it lets you know that there's still a witness, there's still witnesses, there's still people fighting, there's still people with courage and boldness.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are still growing, as you said about her, maturing, malleable, that they can be shaped.
Yep.
I feel that she could be shaped. I feel that he's already there. I think he is focused, and I think that both of them have conviction. And I don't know, there's a character that I like to see, or the development of character that I want to see, that makes me encouraged politically to get behind them.
Yeah.
And even Tallarico, what I've heard about him, I'm encouraged about him. Like I'm not sure if I can go either way probably. But I would like to see this Black woman win. I really would. And I would like to see the community get behind her, and again, push her. I don't mind holding anybody accountable. I don't mind pushing people to their greatness and things of that nature. We've heard that from Cornel West and others.
Yeah.
But let's do it the right way. Let's just hold people accountable. Let's not be agenda driven or ego driven, but
Right.
Let's make sure that whatever pushing we do is for the community, for the voiceless in particular, and the weak and the vulnerable. But I do think that is a priority for both of these people. I believe that, and so now I'm a little bit more reinvigorated. I think you're going to see, and I think we are seeing people being reinvigorated. And I think we talk about that coalition. There's a group of young people, I think, that can be made to believe again and get to it when it comes to participating.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. That is the age group that Mr. Tallarico has, is that growing electorate, the 19 to 30, 35-year-old. And if I had my druthers, and if I had her ear, I would literally tell her to go and study her forerunner, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
Yeah.
If ever there was a congresswoman who is Black, who stood 10 toes down for Black people,
Mm-hmm.
it was Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, whose name is rarely mentioned by Black politicians, shamefully so. I would really love for her to go and try to get some of the energy that she left on this earth in her work.
Yeah.
Coming also hailing from Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and was well known for her good deeds and unapologetically for her people. She
Mm-hmm.
never had to compromise. And don't get me wrong, I understand that you want to build a broader coalition, but you never forget your base. And if anything, I would love to see her. And I don't think the question is the same for Reverend Haynes, but for the Congresswoman, I would love to see her be unapologetically Black, you know, and for our cause, because everybody and their mother supports their own. It is when you get to Black politicians that they forget that they come from somewhere, and the place that they've come from is the place where their bread is buttered. And hopefully, you know, she'll get it together. I was quiet too, and I think that's just to let the audience know. That's one of the reasons why we said let's go back to Black Talk platform. You accepted my offer to come on as a co-host because I think we both realize that we've been sort of quiet. Now, life has been lifing for me, and it's in different ways in terms of your health, as you mentioned, has been lifing for you. But to me, our main platform of connection, Facebook, had become somewhat toxic because I kept seeing these going into opposite corners and coming out in the middle and just wanting to fight because I'm not supporting your candidate, you know. And people lost all civility. And I'm talking about people who look like us, people we have admired over the years and who have taught us and whatever, you know. And I just couldn't anymore because life had to take its place in front of this. But I think we're at an inflection point, and I believe the Lord has given us a prophetic voice for this time. And so I'm grateful to you. Let me let you have the last word. We have not yet set our topic for next week. I like that we are doing Fridays because so much happens in the world over a week's time, and so we're able to quickly pull together a story in the middle of the week, somewhere thereabout. So we have not set our topic yet for next week, but we will, and we'll let you all know. And we hope to have you all come back. Dr. Barbara, Reverend Barbara, I have not forgotten that I will be doing a class, a course. I'm doing two, but I'm launching one that I mentioned a few months ago, the democratization of American Christianity, where somehow our politics became more central sometimes than even our faith. And how do we deconstruct that so we can get back to faith being the central theme in our lives, and that everything political, we see it through the lens of our faith? And that's what Pastor Davis and I are up here doing. We're not just political talking heads. We are trying to advance the faith that we believe in through Christ Jesus, through the lens of our political views, through the lens of our faith in Christ Jesus. And so I'll be doing a 6-week course on that. And directly after that will be the shorter term, I think it's 4 weeks for Vice President Kamala Harris's book and her thoughts around it. It's not going to be a takedown of her book at all, but I love the honesty that she brings forth, because I imagine her stomach was in knots in that 107 days, and kudos to her as well. So we hope that you all will come back with us again next week. We're not trying to get to intentionally where we used to be, but we are definitely trying to have a dialogue here and raise the consciousness of our people, because we don't want to see numbers dwindling, not only in New York, but we don't want to see them dwindling in terms of the votes for candidates who can keep us central, whether they're Black, white, or otherwise, in their platforms. And I think that's key. Pastor Davis, you get the last word tonight.
I think you said a lot in terms of faith and seeing things through the right lens. I think the good Reverend does that. I think he leads that conversation, because increasingly, for myself, I continue to look at the scriptures, look at the Bible, look at having that inform the way I see the world. And I think oftentimes when it comes to the Bible, our faith, we've seen it through white supremacy for so long that we interpret things incorrectly. And the more I read the scriptures, the more I realize God is a God of justice, and the weak and the vulnerable and the oppressed are priorities.
Yeah.
So to be a man of faith, a woman of faith, is to be political. That's just, it's inherent. It is tied together. So I think with Reverend Haynes is that he has been able to marry those concepts, the being a person of faith and politics very well. And I'm excited to see how his campaign unfolds. And I think that becomes potentially like the model of faith for this younger generation of preachers, because I look at these people who I see out here, I'm concerned about the pulpits.
Yeah.
Particularly from a lot of these young preachers that I see, I'm always concerned about them. And if they could see this guy be where he is and have the voice that he has, then I'm encouraged, because I think we need to reimagine some things and change the paradigms of the way we see faith in politics.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm encouraged.
Yeah, so am I. So I see you, Reverend Barbara. I'm going to do that. I'm going to send you the links. And listen, thank you for joining us this week for Black Talk Platform. We are excited to be back, and if the creek don't rise, as the people say, and God spares life, we will seek to be back here with you at 7:00 next Friday for another episode of Black Talk Platform. Pastor Davis, I'll see you in the green room. God bless you all. Be safe. Good night.
Good night.